The Boston Celtics just pulled off one of the most unexpected trades of the early offseason. They now have 27-year-old Kristaps Porzingis on their roster, and that's left many Celtics fans with mixed emotions, because as we know, they had to give up the heart and soul of their team, Marcus Smart. Since being drafted in 2014, Marcus Smart has been in the playoffs every single year while being a vital defensive piece for them. But going into this offseason, there were already rumors of them trading away one of their guards. The position is jammed. Derek White, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, and even Peyton Pritchard were all deserving of getting major minutes. But there are only so many minutes you can give out. And maybe the most non-talked about reason for this trade is this: the Celtics have reached their ceiling, unfortunately. Even though they had the most stacked two-way team in basketball, they just couldn't overcome the Miami Heat. And yes, they made a great attempt at a comeback, and maybe even would have won if it wasn't for Tatum getting hurt. But if you watched the series closely, you could see that the Celtics were just off as a team. Their energy and assertiveness on both sides of the ball was awful at times, and the coaching in big moments was questionable at best. Boston had all of the talent in the world, but fell short. They're such a talented and deep team that it shouldn't have mattered if Tatum got hurt or not. Established veterans like Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, and Marcus Smart just didn't deliver how they needed to when it came to putting the ball in the hoop. So, realistically, this was as good as this team would ever be, at least constructed the way they currently were. They would most likely be in the Eastern Conference Finals every single year, but I just didn't see them winning a championship anytime soon. Sure, they could get there again with that roster, but still, it appeared they lacked the intangibles and mindset to win it all. If you want to know what a championship team looks like, look no further than the Denver Nuggets, of course. Their entire staff, owners, and players are all on the same page, and the roster is filled with talented hustle players who fought their way into the NBA by just being hard workers. Players like Bruce Brown, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jeff Green, and Aaron Gordon weren't the most skilled or jaw-dropping players when they first entered the league, but they have grinded their way to the top, literally. The Nuggets' energy as a team is also wonderful. You don't see a heated player-coach interaction. You can say what you want about Coach Malone, but he has a great relationship with the players, and it shows on the court. But this is not a video about the Nuggets. We already know how good they are. We need to know just how good Kristaps Porzingis is, and what exactly does he bring to the table. To answer that question, we're first going to need to break down and analyze his game, starting with his finishing and post game. In the post, Porzingis is elite. In fact, he ranked fourth only behind Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic in points per post-up. It's not bad company. He was a problem for defenses down there. At 7'3", he towered over every other defender they threw at him. He could rise above you and lay it in there with his soft touch. What's most impressive about his post-game, though, is his skill and finesse. The 7'3" giant can turn over any shoulder and shoot a fadeaway at any angle. And with that high set point, it's nearly impossible to block. He isn't afraid of contact either. He finishes better through contact and often seeks it out. Everyone is always enamored by Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic's footwork, and rightfully so. But Kristaps Porzingis isn't too far from them. Let me remind you that he was the most dominant post scorer in the league behind the Joker, Embiid, and AD, all top 5 players, I might add. So no, I am not overhyping him. He was just that good. And keep in mind, he didn't have as many design plays in the post as Embiid and Jokic do. Those two blow Porzingis out of the water in terms of post touches and total post-ups per game. Yet, he is still right behind them in points. That shows you just how elite he was down low. The Boston Celtics ranked 24th in field goal percentage in the post. And I know, they are a three-point shooting team. But even then, when you look at the roster, they never had a good post scorer who could punish teams down low. So now, most likely, they're going to still be a pretty good shooting team next season, but they also have the chance to be just as deadly in the post. That's a deadly combination. Being able to stretch the floor and dominate in the post as a team is unguardable when executed right. Just ask the Denver Nuggets. With Porzingis, the Celtics don't have to solely rely on Tatum and Brown to launch contested threes when they're down on the scoreboard. They now have the luxury of slowing down the pace, dumping the ball to their big man and letting him cook. He isn't a pure post scorer though, because he ranked 4th in the NBA in points scored per closeout at 7'3". That's just unbelievable. Having a center who could attack closeouts and get efficient shots is a game changer, especially with how the Celtics can move the ball around. His ability to take you off the dribble and go to the rim will take a lot of pressure off of Brown and Tatum. They now have someone who can create their shot in more ways than one. Celtics centers Robert Williams and Al Horford are great players, they are, but they can't do what the unicorn can do offensively. Williams gets all of his points off of layups and dunks, and while Al Horford can stretch the floor, he relied heavily on layups and close shots due to his poor shooting in the playoffs. Even if Porzingis has a bad shooting or scoring game, he can at least be a distraction. Whenever he establishes a deep position in the post, the defense has to focus all of their attention on him. He's just too big and skilled to be left one-on-one. But now onto his shooting. He shot 38% from 3, which ranked him 4th in the NBA among all centers, behind Karl Anthony Towns, Lauri Markkanen, and Julius Randle. We all know the Celtics can stretch the floor. With the number of scorers and shooters on the team, Kristaps will always have a good look from 3. He really is just an underrated player. His now former teammate Bradley Beal said it best when asked what it meant to play with Kristaps at the beginning of the year. "I'm excited because he's a specimen. He's probably the best big I'll play with in my career. It's impressive to see his size, versatility, and ability to stretch the floor, spread the floor, and pass too. I think that's underrated. His defensive capabilities are underrated too. I think he's another guy that had another false narrative around him, and I think he'll prove many people wrong." Speaking of his ability to pass, let's talk about that aspect of his game. He averaged 2.7 assists per game on a bad shooting and scoring team, which was his career high too. He is a solid post playmaker with many targets to pass the ball to behind the arc. He had some great passes this season to cutters that were really impressive and showed his natural feel for the game. His passing started to elevate in 2021 when he played for the Dallas Mavericks. He normally isn't really that flashy and sticks to making the simple swing pass to an open man. But that season, and even today, he has shown accurate full-court passes, driven, and kicked out dimes to the corner, which at 7'3" looks amazing. I'm not saying he's the best passer in the league or anything, but he's a team player and will definitely fit the Celtics' underrated ball movement. On defense, he makes Boston even scarier on that end of the floor. For starters, he was one of the best pick-and-roll defenders in the NBA. He ranked 4th in pick-and-roll points allowed. Only Anthony Davis, Giannis, and Steven Adams ranked higher than him in pick-and-roll defense. While he isn't an overall better defender than Marcus Smart, he gives Boston's defense more flexibility and different options regarding schemes. His length and shot-blocking instincts will be a nightmare to go up against alongside Robert Williams. And that's the thing. Due to Kristaps being an elite offensive player, you can have these two on the floor at the same time, the same way Al Horford and Robert Williams shared the court. He really could have helped defensively in the Miami series. Jimmy Butler got to the rim just too easily, and I can absolutely assure you the results would have been different with Rob Williams and Kristaps on the floor simultaneously. And while we're on defense, here's another reason the Celtics felt comfortable trading Smart: Derek White. Derek White made second-team all-defense this year while leading all guards in blocks. He was the Celtics' most consistent defender. Plus, he's a better on-ball perimeter defender than Marcus Smart in general. So other than Smart's leadership and defensive IQ, it wasn't as big a loss as everyone thinks. But let me be clear, it absolutely is a loss. But again, they have a second-team all-defense defender, a Defensive Player of the Year caliber shot blocker in Robert Williams and Kristaps Porzingis. And not to mention their two stars, Tatum and Jaylen Brown, playing outstanding defense as well. All in all, it is going to be exciting to see Kristaps in a Celtics jersey. He's coming off the best season of his career, averaging 23 points, 8 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and 1.5 blocks per game, while shooting great from 3, the field, and he's been excellent from the free throw line. He also looked like he was having the most fun that he's had in the last 4 years, so his health hopefully is heading in the right direction. But what do you think about this trade? Do you believe Kristaps is the missing piece for Boston? Let us know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.